In 2013, intelligence contractor Edward Snowden became a household name. The data he released confirmed many of our suspicions that not only were we being watched, it was our own government that was watching us.
How was the process of making this film? It seemed like a covert operation in and of itself. How did it differ for you from making your other projects?
I mean, this was, I've worked in conflict zones. I made a film in Iraq about the war. I made a film in Yemen and also Guantanamo. This was definitely the scariest film I've ever made.
Scary how?
It was scary because the level of power that we were confronting and the stakes. And, in this case, I knew that the source I was talking to was putting their life on the line. The big shocker is, and the thing that I think is most disturbing about what's happening, is what the NSA is doing in terms of bulk collection of people who are suspected of nothing. So it's people who there's no suspicion of wrongdoing, and they're collecting everything, and they want to sort of be able to sift through it, both in the moment and then store it so that they can go back to it in real time. So, for instance, as a journalist, that poses a real threat to me because, I have an obligation to protect sources, and if they're collecting, the information of who I'm talking to, then they can go back and find out who those sources are. So there's so many ways in which this is dangerous, and it's a dangerous collection of power, and it's not something that should be happening in secret.
Let's talk about what's happened since then. Anna asked earlier, was it worth it? How do we measure that worth in terms of the government response to these revelations, to some of the public outcry, to the attempts to legislate around and reshift that? What is your stance on how the government has responded, and what more should we be asking for?
Well, I think the government, it's very disappointing. I mean, I think the response to the government, both U.S. government and then governments internationally, has been very disappointing in terms of changing these policies. But there is good news, which is that the technology companies have been responding.